Stanford behavior scientist B.J. Fogg ran the largest habit formation study in history. 40,000 participants across 3 years, tracking what actually determines whether a new behavior sticks. His central finding completely overturns the conventional self-help narrative. Motivation is the wrong driver for habits. It's unreliable, it fluctuates wildly, and building habits on it is structurally fragile. Tiny is the right driver. Behaviors that require almost no ability succeed at 3 times the rate of ambitious ones. Every self-help program, productivity system, and New Year's resolution that relies on sustained motivation to build habits is built on a scientifically demonstrable misunderstanding of how behavior change works. Motivation fluctuates as a biological fact. It peaks and crashes in response to sleep, stress, emotion, and circumstance. Tiny habits are designed to be immune to motivation fluctuation. They're so small that even on your worst day, the activation cost is near zero. That's not thinking small, that's understanding neuroscience. Today's content draws from B.J. Fogg's research at Stanford's Persuasive Technology Lab, spanning over 2 decades and culminating in his 2019 book synthesizing the findings from 40,000 participants. Supporting evidence comes from Deci and Ryan's self-determination theory on intrinsic motivation, and Philippa Lally's European Journal of Social Psychology research establishing that habit automaticity develops along a curve averaging 66 days, not the commonly cited 21. The Fogg behavior model is a mathematical framework for predicting when behaviors occur. It states that a behavior happens when motivation, ability, and a prompt converge simultaneously above a threshold. Most people trying to build habits attempt to engineer the motivation variable, which is unreliable and exhausting. Fogg's insight is that engineering ability, specifically making the behavior so tiny it requires almost zero effort, is more effective, more sustainable, and requires no motivational state at all to succeed. Fogg's data tells a stark story about what actually predicts whether a habit survives to 90 days. Tiny habits anchored to existing behaviors show 85% retention at 3 months and 91% daily completion rates. Motivation-based habits requiring high effort show 32% retention and 39% completion. This is not a small difference, it's a structural difference. The tiny habit architecture removes the single biggest cause of habit failure, requiring motivation at the moment of execution. Here is the actual sequence of how tiny habits scale into substantial behavior over time. Week 1, you execute the anchor behavior celebration loop and it feels absurdly small. You floss 1 tooth, write 1 sentence, do 2 push-ups. That's intentional. Weeks 2 through 4, the loop fires consistently and automaticity builds without any motivational input. By month 2, Fogg's research shows what he calls behavioral blossoming. Habits naturally expand because they feel good, not because you force them. B.J. Fogg's most important insight isn't about behavior size. It's about the role of emotion in wiring neural habits. Most people believe habits form through repetition alone. Fogg's research shows this is incomplete. Emotion is the primary mechanism. Positive feeling immediately after a behavior, genuine celebration, not performed enthusiasm, signals the brain to encode that behavior as worth repeating. The dopamine response is triggered by the celebration, not merely the completion. Without that emotional signature, repetition produces very slow habit formation. The entire self-help industry is built on a myth that Fogg's 40,000-person study systematically dismantles with data. The myth is that big motivation produces big habits, that you need to be fired up, committed, and driven to build lasting behavior. The evidence shows the opposite. High motivation is inherently unstable. Tiny habits designed around maximum ability create stable neurological loops that survive low motivation days, stress, travel, and disruption, the very conditions that reliably destroy motivation-dependent habits. The tiny habits recipe has exactly 3 components, each engineered from behavioral science. First, choose an anchor, an existing habit that reliably fires every single day, becoming your automatic prompt. Second, design the behavior to be tiny, ideally taking less than 30 seconds. Not exercise, but put on workout shoes. Not meditate, but take 3 conscious breaths. Third, celebrate immediately after, a genuine positive emotion that wires the dopamine reward. Execute these 3 in sequence and the loop begins building. Your tiny habit starter kit. 5 behaviors using Fogg's exact formula, each attached to a daily anchor. After brushing your teeth, floss 1 tooth. After turning off your alarm, drink a full glass of water before touching your phone. After sitting at your desk, write your single number 1 priority before opening email. After parking, take the longer route to the entrance. After getting into bed, put your phone face down across the room. The tiny habits method uses if then anchoring to turn intentions into automatic behaviors, the most evidence-backed form of implementation intention available. The existing habit does all the prompting work so you never decide or remember. After your morning coffee, open your journal and write one sentence. After closing your laptop, do 2 minutes of stretching. After getting in the shower, turn the water cold for the last 30 seconds. Anchor, tiny behavior, celebrate. Tiny habits isn't about thinking small. It's about understanding the actual neuroscience of how brains encode lasting behavior. Motivation is a poor architect of habits. Ability, anchoring, and celebration are the correct variables to engineer. Start impossibly small, smaller than feels meaningful. The behavior will grow naturally once the loop is encoded, because that's what habits do. The goal in the first 4 weeks isn't progress. It's wiring the loop. Subscribe. We break down peer-reviewed behavioral science into practical systems so your habits actually survive past week 4. Pick one anchor from today's video, design your tiny behavior, decide on your celebration, and execute it tomorrow. The loop starts with a single repetition.